All right, so to make this animated greeting, yes, we will make a background. We'll set up our document to a certain size. And the animation happens in Photoshop by creating, as what was said, frames, all right? So we think about our stop motion and we took all the pictures, all right? And we are kind of doing the same process, but all we're going to be doing to make the animation happen in these frames is we're going to select what layer we want to have visible during the frame. So in this first frame, all I have is the background visible. In the second frame, and I should look at my layers, all right, the only layer that's visible, and we know that by looking at the eyeball, all right, is our background. On my second frame, I have the background visible, and then I have the first word happy. My third frame, I have the background and this other word happy, and so forth and so on. So all we're doing is we're selecting layers that we want visible during that frame, or kind of for that picture. Now, as far as movement, this becomes a little more tedious in what's called the frame animation, because for each appearance or each kind of location of something, you have to make a different layer in that new position. We'll see tomorrow or next week how we can use a different type of animation in Photoshop to actually, if we wanted to make this word move, we wouldn't have to make 5 layers or however many layers I have for the different appearances. We can actually move it similar to what we would have done in Premiere. But I wanted to start kind of simpler and show you how to work with the frame animation, and then we'll build up to what's called a timeline animation. All right, so let's get started here. If you guys can open Photoshop, create a new document, and up on the top in our presets, you can go to mobile, and I know a lot of us have iPhones. I think they have some Android devices in here. Not so many though. Actually, are there any?
There's one Android thing.
Yeah. I mean, you can always just, if you know, you have a different device that you know you want to send to or build for, you can always just Google search resolution of whatever model phone, and it should give you a pixel dimension, and then you could just make a custom document to that size. All right. I know though iPhone X is what I have, so I'm going to set it up for that, and we would then just put in there, you know, animated greeting card. Save it as that. All right, so I'll leave this up for a couple seconds. All right, then we're going to press create. So that gives us a new document. All right, we're going to first start by just setting up our layers. So I know that the question was on the kind of the test about the gradient, so I thought it was a good time to exercise that and put it into place. So on your toolbar, if you find the paint bucket and hold it, you can then access the gradient tool. All right, so we're going to do our background first by assigning a gradient. Up on the top, we call this like the ribbon. There's some preset gradients. So if you like these colors, you could select one and then click and drag, and it will apply that. You can also if you want to make your own gradient colors, you can change the foreground color, and this is a little different than Illustrator, where instead of having a fill and a stroke, we have a foreground and a background color. So on my example, I had like a light blue as my foreground. If I click the little kind of switch icon there, I can get to my background and pick another color. So maybe I'll do like some nice kind of pastel-y types of colors. And now if I click and drag, I will get that gradient. Also notice that depending on how and where you click, it's going to determine the type of gradient you have, or the location of the center point, where actually I have up here in the top too something also to notice. There's different types of gradients. The one on the left is called a linear gradient, so it applies it kind of in a straight line pattern. Alright, so now I can see that my color, there's almost like a banding, a vertical banding we can see where it's solid green here and it's gradually going to blue, but it's kind of like a line. If I go from right to left instead of left to right, it reverses it. Alright, or top to bottom, we would get that color applied in a different direction. So you really have to think about how you want that to apply. You also have, to the right of that, you have what's called a radial gradient. So that is more of a circular pattern. So with that one, you'd want to start in the middle and drag out. Or drag out and then back to the middle, and I think that should reverse it. Yeah, well, it's our center point, so actually it's still a circular type of pattern of that color, but it's starting from up there. So typically with your radial, you want to start from the middle and drag out. If I wanted these colors to be reversed, I would just switch them on my toolbar and then reapply it. And now I should have going from blue to green. Yeah, like that. So now that we have our background, we're going to start adding our text. And for demonstration purposes and just kind of for testing for that you have the same types of thing, I think I'd like you to have it so that, how many layers do we have? We're going to try to kind of create some movement, all right? So whatever your greeting is, I'd like you to have like 3 layers of one thing, and then you don't necessarily have to have the other multiple layers of the other ones, but let's start by, if you're doing Happy Mother's Day, do 3 layers of happy, and I made them in different colors. That way it kind of gives, it's going to give the appearance that it's fading in, all right, because it's going to start with the lighter blue and then gradually get darker. All right, so if I go back here, all I'm going to do is click on my text tool, and then I can just kind of make a text box or kind of a frame for that. I'll type in happy, and I guess that's too big for the box, or oh, too small. All right, so notice that on mine, you'll probably get the same thing on yours. That text, you almost can't even see it there. So up on the top, we have our font size, so we can really make this really large there, but it's still not as big as we want. Now, the box, we call this a bounding box around it. I always try to get it to kind of match the size of the words. And then what we can do once it's placed, we can do a Control T, and now we can stretch this out so that it gets a little bit bigger, and then kind of recenter it. I don't really like the font, so I'm going to go back. If I want to change the font, I have to go back to the type tool and reselect it, and now I can go into here, and I would probably choose maybe like some kind of, we would say our decorative fonts or our novelty fonts, something that has like a little more of an artistic touch to it, because we're not writing a novel where we need people to really be able to read things like really clearly. Fall Harvest, I kind of like that one. It's kind of this distressed look. All right, so after I got my color in there, then I went to the selection or the move tool, which is the first tool in the toolbar. That allows me to, just as it implies there, move. All right. You'll see also if you move around, this kind of, you have some guidelines, which is this pink line that, or magenta really, that pops up indicates the center of the document, which is good, right? We want to have this centered. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to make it slightly bigger. Now we know that shift, actually we said in this quizzes that shift should constrain it, but now they've changed it where by default it does scale it proportionally, whereas if we hold the shift key it actually does the opposite, where now if you hold the shift it changes it disproportionately. So contrary to what we've been teaching you forever, the software has changed now, so which is for the better, right? Now you don't have to hold shift and it changes it proportionally. But there is another keyboard shortcut, because right now I have to scale it and then move it, all right? But another keyboard shortcut which is useful is if you hold the Alt key and then drag it, it keeps the center point in the same spot, so you don't have to move it afterwards. All right, so if we get this lined up to that pink line or that magenta line there, which is our center of the document, all right, so I'll kind of just move it there. And now if I hold Alt and Shift, it's always going to stay in the center. All right, so there's another keyboard shortcut to make your life a little quicker. All right, we don't have to move the document after, or move that text box afterwards. All right, everybody okay with placing text, getting it to the correct size that you want? Any questions on that, Nick?
I found out the font, so how would I change the resolution again?
Instead of redoing that text and kind of making all those changes and get it to match, I can just right click on my layer and I can duplicate it, I think, or nope. Actually, I got to click the little drop down arrow. Doesn't that give us the option? Duplicate, there we go. So when we duplicate the layer, we make a copy. I don't know why it's not doing it. What's going on? Is it just thinking here? I don't have any pop-ups anywhere. It's on my screens. All right, let's try it a different way. Another way, I think I'm kind of stuck here. All right, what's going on? All right, that means something. Oh, there we go. I knew there was a pop-up somewhere. All right, so when we duplicate it, it's just asking us, we could rename it, but I'm not really too worried about that. I think I'll be able to determine that. So now we have this other layer, and now we can just move it down. Now I would hold the Shift key to kind of make sure it doesn't go to the side. All right, so I made a copy of that layer, I moved it down, and then I can use my text tool. Actually, I think I don't even have to. I thought I was going to have to. All right, I do have to click on text. All right, and then up in the ribbon, we have a little swatch there for color, and maybe I'll just start making it a little darker from there. There we go. All right. So and then I'll repeat that for a third one. All right. So duplicate it. Move it down so we can see what it looks like there. And then if we choose the text tool, we can change the color, maybe make it a little bit darker. All right. They may need to be moved a little bit, I'm thinking, because I don't think I'm going to quite have room for the other ones when I do that. So I'm going to just kind of overlap these. Happy, happy, happy. All right, and there's where we are to this point. All right, so I'll kind of take a little pause and see where everybody is. So we're going to continue with text. You guys can keep working. Everybody, you know, that's nothing really kind of new. We're just doing more of the same.
No, the opposite way. You want to do the light to dark? Yeah, no, dark to light, dark to light.
exclamation point. There we go. All right, so we have our greeting here. And actually I want a green. All right. All right, so after we have our text in there, I think the next thing we'll start working on is our image. All right, so I think flowers are pretty appropriate for Mother's Day. And so what we're going to do, look for one, and I would try to find one with like a white background or something solid so that it'll make it a little easier to remove that from the background, right? Because so like something like this would be kind of difficult to do. It's not impossible. Something like this, probably not too bad. This might be a little more difficult because it's not a solid background. All right, so try to find a flower, whatever image you're looking for. Just try to choose one that has more of a solid background so that we can remove it easier. This one should be really easy, all right? I'm going to pick this one. So I'm going to just right-click it. I'm going to copy image, and then back in Photoshop, I will now paste it. All right, so why don't you guys watch what I'm going to do here next before you work on your own. All right, so if you've just done color correction in Photoshop and that type of thing, you probably haven't used the selection tools that much. All right, I'm going to zoom in by another keyboard shortcut, Control Plus. We'll zoom in, and then also, instead of using the scroll bar to what we say pan around the image, because as I zoom in, I want to see different parts. So if you hold the space bar and then left click and drag, and this works pretty much in all Adobe software or in Illustrator, I think InDesign also, you can what's called pan around so that we can see or move the image around without having to move your mouse down here and back up. All right. All these little things add up to doing things quicker. All right. So once we get our image in here, then I'm going to go to one of our selection tools. I'm looking for the magic wand, which should be grouped here with our quick selection. It's not, so I'm going to go down to the three dots, and it brought my magic wand tool there, which, all right, I guess I can just select it. And then now I'm just going to click on the white, and it picks most of it. It removed a little here. So I'm going to zoom in. When we're selecting with the magic wand, we can also try to add to the selection by holding the shift. Let's see if it, no. All right, so not all selection tools work all the time. I like to start with the easier ones first. So I want to start over selecting. So I'm going to do a Control D to deselect. And now I'm going to try this the quick selection tool. That's the next one. And what I can do now is just kind of drag around and carefully try not, oop, I got too much there, I think. Control D. Sometimes you have to kind of remove a section. So I'm going to select this part, I'll press delete. All right, I'll try to do this part here. All right, and here's where the problem is. Now it's getting too much. What's nice about the quick selection is right now there's a plus in the middle of it. If I hold the Alt key, now it turns to a minus, and I can take away from the selection. So now I'm not taking away too much of that flower, and then I can kind of continue. I'm going to start on this side. You can always use the eraser, but that takes time, and a lot of times when you go around an object, you take away too much of it. We can also reduce this circle, which is the size of our brush, by using the left and right square bracket. All right, so I'm going to just do that. I'll remove that. I'll remove that. I might need to use the eraser in there. Let's see. I'll kind of drag here. Let's get rid of that. All right, so we're finding an image and we're isolating it from the background by using the selection tools to remove. And actually, I think I have to do a little bit of erasing here because it didn't quite get that line. So now I can just kind of finish up. Why is that? Maybe I have something deselect or selected. So yeah, there we go. All right, so I can just kind of finish up some minor removal using the eraser tool. All right. So.
Couldn't you just use like maybe like a PNG or whatever?
If you find a PNG, yeah, with a transparent background, definitely. A lot of times you can't really find the ones that you want, so I wanted to show you guys some tools to, when it's not so easy. And I got a little bit up here. All right, so I'll give you some time to find your image, remove your background, but these will be all the parts that we would need before we're ready to start animating. Actually, we will do one more thing, but I don't want to. It's just going to be duplicating and adding a small change to that. All right, so we'll take a pause and we'll try to get caught up to this part. We have most of our parts here. Now, the only other thing that we're going to need to set up is kind of like I made it glow in a sense, or kind of blink at one part. So we're going to duplicate Mother's Day and we're going to apply a layer effect to them. All right, so I'm going to take this layer here. I like this drag method. And then I'm going to select either one of those. And then down on the bottom of your layer effects, or the layers panel, you have an option to add a layer style. And it's this FX. So you can choose whichever one you want. I'm particular to the outer glow. I think it creates some nice emphasis. All right, where'd my settings go? There it is. So we have a pop-up. I'm going to drag onto the screen here. All right, so this allows us to control the quality of that glow. You can change the color, all right? I kind of lean a lot of times towards like a yellow glow, all right? I can change the spread here, which is kind of how far out that glow goes, and the size. All right, you have a live preview happening on your screen back here, which you can turn on or off. All right, so you can see that effect being applied to that, which now, kind of takes away from that pink. We do have some blend modes, which would be normal. You can get some different interactions with your background there, like dissolving. So as like a speckled look, we have color burn, all these different looks which you can kind of play around with on there, or just keep it normal. All right, so we're going to apply a layer effect to Mother's and Day, or two words that you have in there. So I will then duplicate this layer also, and then apply another effect. And it should retain the same settings as the previous effect, so you shouldn't have to go in there and really change that too much. All right, but now we have kind of some emphasis that's going to be created on these two words, right? And we can just kind of test and see what the animation is going to look like because we're going to make it kind of blink by just pressing the eyeball, and that would show what it's going to look like with that effect on or off. All right, so now we're ready to animate. I would do a quick save at this point because we don't want to potentially have a crash and then we lose everything. Yep, and yeah, I'll wait actually if there's questions. I mean, basically all you need now is a couple text layers. I would like to have everybody have all your parts there, but I would, if we just talk about the process of animating, then you can kind of circle back around.
edits or whatever, the effects.
Okay, so you just, whatever,
Yeah. I don't know why I had it. Okay.
so you just select the layer you wanna apply the effect to, which is probably not the background layer, and then click on FX.
Okay.
And I use the outer glow, but you can pick any one of those that you wanted. Yeah, the preview's on, so I'll change that to normal. This is the blend mode.
Mm.
Right. And then this is the color of your glow.
I don't know which one it is.
Well, it's you have to like move the stuff over, cause you can't really see, like that's on day.
Yeah, which
Pick a color, let's just see.
That's what they do, like not just the color.
Let me just move this window to the left a little bit, so it's sweet. And then you can play around with your spread and your size. I think it's this one you're applying to.
Oh yeah, you can see it now.
And then put the drop down arrow next to that down there, and we're gonna do frame animation. And then just press radial gradient. Questions over here? Picture in there, you get text. Select the layer that you want it to apply to. Layer panel.
I'm drinking. Dude, why? Under 21. Fuck, man.
No water for you.
Fuck, man. No, because I said I'm drinking.
Is no water for you.
No, Marquez, because I was like, I went over there to take a drink, and he looks at me, like I'm in trouble, he's like, I was like, what's the matter? He's like, you can't drink. I was like,
No, I would, Nick,
oh, yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
No, I'm drinking. You can't do that. Why?
Yo.
You're under 20, you're under 21.
I got scared though. I was like, what? Why are you coming at me?
You can't drink.
I know, right? Leave me alone.
I will tell you.
I just want to sit with my bang.
No.
I just want to bang. I just want to bang. I want to bang. I know, I'm dying. That ship sailed, right? Sadly.
Nicholas.
I mean, am I wrong or am I right?
Nicholas.
Am I wrong or am I right?
Nicholas.
Am I wrong or am I wrong?
Am I wrong or am I right? No. Am I wrong or am I wrong?
You're wrong.
But bang is good.
Bang tastes like schnapps.
I can have bang every day.
Bang.
That's right, monkeys. You know how it is. The fruitier the better, Marquis. Stay away from the sour type though.
What are you talking about?
So what we're gonna do then,
I mean, is it
you have
true?
your layer with the effects, like, cause we wanna make like Happy Mother's
Marquis,
Day.
Marquis. You gotta go with the
Well,
one that
we're gonna,
leaves you
so what
wanting more.
I did, how were you gonna do it?
Okay, there you go. See, there you got it. You got it. See, I'm not addicted. I have to go back and drink more.
Yeah, but I want the letters, so at the end, I want your flowers to stay there, and I want your greeting to blink. So with some layer effects. So, well, select all those, you have to apply a layer effect to Happy Mother's Day.
Look, 4 foot 11.
3 of those layers. But we'll make a duplicate.
Small
This-
sign.
We're gonna have the blinking is basically this appearance, and then a duplicate of the layer with the layer effect applied to it. So you have to duplicate your 3 text layers and then apply a layer effect to each one of them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I was gonna say.
So just make it.
duplicate and just, you know, do your, or you could play around. I did an outer glow.
I guess it's
That's what
so I have this. How do we set up? What is this called?
the layer effects
Yeah, all
or the
that.
timeline. What are you gonna, so we'll have Happy Mother's Day blinking at the end, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna duplicate those two layers, so I guess this one and this one.
No, okay, so it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. So just want to duplicate.
Yep. And then put a layer effect on it.
Now, where do you want this? You want to make overlapping?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then do your FX on the bottom. Yep. And add it below, maybe. If you move this box to the side, you should be able to see where it's applying. So maybe try adjusting the spread and the size, because I don't really see that glow yet. Yeah, now you can see it, right? Window timeline.
How big are the sides though? Because it's not that big, right?
It doesn't have to be crazy, probably something like that.
Yeah.
Do the same, and then do the same thing for Mother's Day. Duplicate it and then apply your effect. Looking for a flower there or something? Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go through the process here and get this set up. Oh, I was still recording. I didn't pause there. So sorry, in the recording we have probably a lot of dead space there, but it is what it is. All right, so I'm going to duplicate my layer. I am going to, and then just start selecting the layer that we want to have visible. So there's that one. Now on this duplicated layer, is it that one? No, it's that one. Duplicate, and then you're only gonna, in the end, like duplicate those ones that we're gonna apply that layer effect to. So I have my words coming in, then the flower, and I mean, if you guys have it a little differently, the order, that's fine. But I want to have kind of some kind of gradual appearance, right, and kind of suggesting movement, and then I want to have some blinking kind of created with our layer effects at the end. So now we have these set up here, and then I'm just going to go in here to get my blinking. I will turn on the layers that have the effect applied to that. And this one. And so we have, this would be the non-layer effect, this would be with it. And to get the blinking then, I can select both frames, so because this is the off and then the on, and I can just copy them at once. So that would be a 1 blink, 2. All right, you could kind of repeat that a couple times. And now if we play this, you know, we see that blinking. So it's coming in one by one, and then we have a couple blinks at the end. All right, so something to this effect, all right, of your words kind of coming in gradually, like a little bit of motion suggested, and then your image, and then that kind of glow blinking created by those different layer effects. So that's the end of the design. I would save this again, and then to create a video of it, we're going to go to File, Export. I'm going to try to create a GIF afterwards. I'm not sure how it's going to look. We're going to start with just making a video though, like an MP4 file. So we can say render video. Our pop-up comes up and we have some familiar formats here, our H.264 to make our MP4 file. And I don't think we really have to change anything else. So if we render that, I see it's processing here. and then I'll go and check to make sure it's what I want it to be. So I have to go to our location of where it was saved. My drive. Hopefully you're using your G drive as I am. That way you could access it from home. Here's my MP4. All right, and then, so for what I would try to do, and actually let's see file size here. All right, so that's pretty good. It's under 2 megabytes, all right, almost 1,500 kilobytes. I should be able to email that, or I know I can. I'm also going to try to create a GIF also, but what happens with the GIFs a lot of times is that the colors, they kind of get a little roughened up. So we do save for web. And actually that quality looks pretty good. What they do in this panel is that, I mean, this tab is optimized, so it's going to try to find the best settings for it. We do want to make sure we have GIF over here selected. And then we have our looping options also. So if we do a save now, and
Can I just leave this in the studio?
So now we made a GIF file, and let's see how that looks. Where'd it go? Which screen did it save? Actually, I'll just look at it this way. So here is our animated GIF.
See you tomorrow.
All right, have a good one.
See you, boys.
Actually looks pretty good as a GIF file. Sometimes the edges of some of the pictures and the text gets a little roughened up, but that looks pretty good. That'll repeat like forever. And our file size here, actually it's bigger as a GIF. That's surprising too than an MP4. So I'm going to just do a quick test here then. I'm going to email this to myself so that you could, that's what I would think you're going to do. If you're sending it to your mom or whoever, you would email that to them. You can always email it to yourself too then, and then save it to your photos, and then you could probably text it to them. Because that might be, sometimes people don't always check their emails, right? And I didn't, you might want to sign them also. That's one thing I didn't include there, but you might want to kind of put it like a salutation there, love whoever, that type of thing. All right, but that would be the end of the process for that. So let's see, where do I want you guys to post these? I guess you can, for consistency, and that way we get stuff in our portfolios eventually. When you get your file exported as the MP4, please upload it to YouTube and put your link in the classwork today as a class comment. All right, so there's your submission or your delivery for today.